Alright, well, while I was trying to make some more room to get that lower water pump screw, I noticed the engine is hitting off this brake reservoir. And that got me a little worried because it was really, I'm guessing it's just a little rubber gasket or something there. But if you move the engine too much, these hoses and stuff and the engine cover will push that over. So definitely watch that when you start moving the motor. Right now I actually use my Widowmaker and jack the transmission side up to kind of start over, because I didn't really think about that. I never saw or read anything online about watching that, and I hit that, and that got me kind of nervous because there's hard lines, there's hard brake lines behind here, and you break one of those and then you're in that boat of replacing more things when you were only trying to replace one thing. So I'm going to remove the engine cover, that way I have more visibility on what I see. So I got to take this big clamp off. Alright, cover's off. So now you can just see how close everything is. I'm sure when people are doing this, they're definitely hitting that reservoir, because if you're supposed to jack up the passenger side more, you're going to get that cant, and you're definitely going to hit this. So also, I did remove the dog bone completely. So this is out. That was a 21 or 22 millimeter bolt. It's very far back, single bolt. So I did pull that. That way I can drop this lower without putting any stress on that dog bone. So that's my fault for trying to skip that. So let's try to get that bottom water pump bolt in. Alright, I'm going to remove this air pump hose, evap pump or whatever hell it is. I'm removing this because this is pushing this. I mean, this moves around enough, but I don't want to put any more strain on that. So you pinch these together, and I might have to do it with two hands. Moved it, but I don't really know where to put it in it. Well, I wasn't recording, but I was able to lift this up out of here without. I don't think I broke it. It was definitely making some noise though. I don't know if I get a check engine light or something. Like, that gave me like, a lot more room to maneuver the motor, so. So I'm going to lift the motor up again, drop it back down on the transmission side. That way that's a little more canted. That way we can get that bolt in. Should have did this first when I removed it. Probably would have been easier, but hey, I'm learning as I go. Okay, so you can see I definitely got way more room now. The motor's really up on this side. It's dropped down just a little on the transmission side. And got room there. Pinching that little hose, so that's actually kind of keeping it from going into there. And watch these hard lines down here. Thinking these go to the heater core. And they're plastic, so you got to watch those. Yeah, there's definitely a lot you got to watch for when you're moving this motor around. Not so much in the front. It's got a lot of room, and those hoses move around pretty good. But in the back, there's definitely a lot. I mean, even this hose is pretty stretched. So I'm going to get that bottom bolt and hopefully get this back together. Oh, there goes the camera. Alright, what I'm going to do next is just take a razor blade, clean this mating surface. Since it was leaking before, definitely don't want any old gasket or buildup from where it was leaking. Alright, we can start putting the water pump in. This is probably going to be maybe a little tricky. I got the pulley lined up with the holes, so I don't have to try to fight with it. And the pump's kind of bolt pattern. These two bolts here, these two bolt holes are closer to each other than this single one over here, and that's how it is on the block. So it kind of sits like this. So I'm just going to slide the pump in. Hopefully get it to seat in there good. There it goes. It might want to fall off, but I'm going to get a bolt. And it'd be really good if you have a magnetic tip Torx 30, but might have to get a magnet. Well, 9 newton meters is equal to 6.6 something 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 foot-pounds. So if you want that conversion, that's it. Alright, that's torqued. Now I'm going to take a rag and kind of wipe some of this stuff off and do this inside, which is the longer belt. I don't have a picture of it, but there's a little schematic of the belt routing that you could find. I'll see if I can find a link that I can put it in the description. Should have probably just took a picture with the phone, and you know, that way it'd be quick reference that way. Alright, so we're going to take our longer belt, and we are probably not going to have enough room because the AC pulley is like right up against the motor, so I'm going to have to move the motor again. Should be enough, and I'll have to go put back all those hoses that I took off. So we got our long belt, longest of the So that's looped on. I just gotta loop this section up over this belt right here, up over that tensioner. So remember, if you turn the tensioner clockwise, it will loosen. It looks like I gotta maybe put it on the tensioner first. Leave that up there. Okay, that gives me more room. Close, but it's kind of hard to do because I'm trying not to block the camera or block the light. Go. And you might have to just watch spinning it. You don't get your fingers sucked in anywhere. Free, nothing's spin. Make sure you don't see nothing like humping the belt up, like something got stuck in between a pulley and a belt. And actually, researching last night, I found out you can actually access the tensioners from the bottom, and I found that you can access, which one was it? Well, if it was this one or this one, the lower engine bolt through a little hole here behind the inner fender liner. It's the upper portion of the fender liner. If you remove that, there's the access hole for that lower engine side mount, instead of lifting it up and having to struggle to get it. Okay, so we got our inside belt on. I'm going to see if I can reach in here and tighten up that tensioner. So what I did was I raised the motor back up so I can get to this tensioner, and we'll just tighten it down. Now, I'm unsure of the torque specs of the tensioners, so I'm just tightening mine tight. Worst going to happen, it's going to throw a belt. So that's on. Check to see if it rolls free. It's rolling good. We'll do the lower belt from the bottom, or the outer belt from the bottom. But that'll be later. I'm going to start putting all this stuff I took back off on this side. Alright, I guess now we can put on side motor mount, since we're pretty much done on this side. Water pump's in. Put my blown engine mounts back in. Which I guess technically you probably do have enough room to pull the water pump out without removing these. I'm guessing maybe that's what they think people are doing, but that seems kind of a lot to mess around with. My old bolts, and I'm gonna get this one in here as much as I can. And when I reinstall, when I tighten it down, I will go through the fender liner to show you that's where that little access point is, since I didn't do it at the beginning. And I have to get my phone, but I have the torque specs for these side bolts. And these are one-time use, so you're going to have to replace them. You're going to have to order bolts, since ECS does not include them in this kit. They include the transmission sides and not this side. So I don't know what the deal is with that. Alright, let me grab a wrench. Okay. You have 44 foot-pounds, a quarter turn. I'm going to say again, I reuse my bolts because ECS does not include these bolts. So I'm guessing they don't want you to remove this engine mount. But all the do-it-yourselves and write-ups and in the Bentley manual, they're showing, you know, removing this mount, but they don't include that. They don't include the bolts in the kit, so I'm reusing my bolts. So do at your own risk. So I'm going to tighten these to 44 foot-pounds and probably not do a quarter turn. Probably just go like an eighth turn. Which you also shouldn't use a torque wrench to get that final turn. So I'll come back with a breaker bar. And like I said before, I'll do that lower one through the inner fender liner. Throw on the breaker bar and just get a little turn. Not much, but it's tight. Alright, next we're going to lower this motor down, this motor mount down. We'll put these in. Now we're not going to tighten these down right away. We'll wait till we get the tranny side in. That way we can shift the motor around. Remember where I didn't clean this mount off, so I see where the bolt head was laying, so I can have an idea of where the mount sat and where the engine sat. We'll lower it down, watch the AC on. So I'll probably have to pull my motor a little. I'm just hoping my jack don't come flying down. It's slowly going down. Looks like I got room. I don't trust these Harbor Freight jacks. Stop it right there. It's still up in the air. I can still move it around pretty good. That way I can shift it over if I need to. Use a pry bar. Once again, ECS supplies me with 4 18 millimeters, but I need 16s for here. I don't know what the deal is with that. I have 2 bolts that I don't need. This is where I'm going to drop a socket down onto it, turn it by hand. Alright, that's hand tight. Now I'm going to take the inner fender liner out so we can get that bottom bolt. This one that's tucked way back in here. And then we can at least lower it down some more on this side and do the tranny side. So I just had to remove a couple more screws than I wanted to, but it might just be one more. Stuff that in there. And look at that, it lined up just right. So that's got to get tightened to 44 foot-pounds and a quarter turn. I'll put a pry bar on there and go like a 1/8 turn. I said before, I reuse my bolts. Just give it another turn. A little, I can really. That's good. Okay, while we're under here, we're going to put the outer belt. Put the outer belt on. Tighten up that tensioner. Okay, new belt. Goes around the crankshaft, pulley. Under the tensioner and up over to drop that tensioner down, or actually move it up so we can slip the belt on. This one, there actually is a little holes that you can stick a nail through, which actually I'll show that since I'm thinking about it. Camera so I can see. There's a little hole. They sell a little tool that you can. It's a pin that you move the tensioner its farthest loose position, and it locks it in place. So you just flip the belt right on, put your wrench back on, pull the pin, tightens it up. So I'm gonna get a nail or maybe a screwdriver that'll fit through there, and I'll show you how that works. Alright, I found Torx driver, and I think it will work. So I'm going to turn this. Oh, I wanted to keep my. Might just have to bend that out of the way, but looks like I can slip the belt on the tensioner. Make sure it's on the crank. And I think that Torx driver did the trick. Now I probably could just pull that out and let it go, but that might just let it fly, and I don't know. You never know, that could make something break. So Leave the tension. Pull that out. And there we go. Belt's on. Can't really spin that. But just double check, make sure it's on, make sure grooves are in grooves, flats on the tensioner and idlers. Now we just tighten that tensioner down. Okay, we'll just tighten that tensioner down. Remember, that's the triple square M10, same as the other tensioner. And try to find the torque specs on these. I'm not sure what they are. I'm sure there is torque specs for everything. I don't think the bolts are one-time use. That seems tight. And we're done on this side, so we'll throw the fender liner back on, which I'm not going to show that. I mean, you saw how it came off. It goes back on the same way as it came off, pretty much. So we'll put that back on. Alright, got the fender liner in, bottom part of the fender liner's in. We'll move over to the tranny side. Alright, I wasn't going to show this because it was kind of like a step I shouldn't have had it done, but I'm going to put all this stuff back on, put the engine cover back on. I probably won't show that, I don't know. Depends on how fast I can get this to go on. We'll get the transmission lined up, since now I have new bolts for that. Drop these bolts in. Okay, I got those in there. They're not tight, they're just hand tight, so I should still got some wiggle. And you kind of see my old marks. So I'm going to play with the jacks, move them around. If anything, I'll probably just grab the engine somewhere and hold it there and tighten it with one hand until it holds it. They are pretty close, maybe off by 1/4 inch. So you'll need a 18mm for that. This side you can kind of see in the back, you can see the old mark. So this mount needs to go over, and that should give us what we need. So I'm going to try to slide that over with a pry bar. I don't know if I can push it. I might have to like lower the jack a little. So this kind of, you're probably going to be bouncing back and forth one side or the other. And remember, you don't have the dog bone in, so you don't want to drop your jack down real fast, because so we'll see if I can. Thinking if I can hold this one here, tighten these, that will essentially give this. So I'm thinking if I tighten these first. Okay, so I'm going to tighten passenger side mount first, and then all the shifting I do over here, hopefully that pushes that mount into place. See if I can shift the motor over with the jack. And I got what I needed. So now I can tighten this down. I'll just snug this up so it don't move, and then we'll torque that to spec. Even though I'm reusing the bolts, so you will torque your new bolts to spec. And I gotta check the torque specs for those. I don't remember. Alright, torque specs for these. Engine mount to the frame are 30 foot-pounds and a quarter turn. I'll just give them a little, not even an eighth turn for me, maybe an eighth turn, since they're reused. Eventually they'll get replaced. Okay, now these two bolts for this little bracket, they are 15 foot-pounds. And I don't remember what size they were. 13 foot-pounds. As much as I can with this little stumpy wrench. Alright, that's good here. Alright, next we're going to tighten these down, make sure by moving that mount over there, it lined this up pretty much dead on where I needed it to be. So these are going to get tightened down now. These get torqued to 44 foot-pounds and a quarter turn. Also, you might want to jack up the transmission or the engine, that way you're not pulling the tranny up with about halfway there. One more little crank, I gotta move the camera. There we go. Got our quarter turn. Time to do the other one. Let's see, we'll go from, not really, we'll go from here to about this angle. So I'm going to basically take this V that's on this bolt and put it right at that point. A little bit more. There we go. 44 foot-pounds, a quarter turn. We'll put our battery tray back in, put our battery back in, but we won't hook it up. And then we'll go underneath, put our dog bone in, torque those bolts down, and put our lower rad hose in, and we're ready to fill it up with coolant. Battery tray back in. If I remember how it goes back in. Snake under this mess of wires. Fish our hand down in here to put that bracket back on, which is always, I guess that's where leaving the engine cover off would come in handy. Once you get that nut started, you can grab your 13mm and tighten that bracket down. It's for a good little swivel. Alright, now we're underneath. Put the dog bone back in. And you will need your new big bolt, which goes here. Replaces this one. Now you probably won't have this big washer because I have a dog bone insert. So I will probably just do this. And there's mine. That's the 21mm bolt, and then you got your 2/16s, which the long one goes through here like that. That one will go there. And then you have your shorter one, which goes here. So the short one goes here, long one goes here, fat one goes here. And if you haven't noticed, the jack's gone. The engine's, supported by the motor mounts, but you can still wiggle it around. Alright, I'm just going to hand tighten, well actually I'm not going to hand tighten these. I'm going to, for this one, I'm going to use my impact gun just to get it. Since I had to bend that washer back into place, I flipped it. Rest. Now this is where you're going to want to line up a hole, take a freehand or pry bar, and maneuver your motor. We'll do this first. Try not to get in the way of the camera, I think it does. I'll speed the process up. I'm not going to tighten it with this, just get it up in there. Same thing with this bolt, you might have to Just wiggle the motor around. So you got started. Give it a couple turns with an impact. I'm just doing that just so I don't have to turn it 400 times on camera. So now I got to get the torque specs for these. I think this is like 90 foot-pounds or 95 foot-pounds. These being 16s, they're probably 44, 30 foot-pounds. Okay, these are 30 foot-pounds, both of them 30 foot-pounds, a quarter turn. This is 74 foot-pounds and a quarter turn. So we will do the front ones first. $30 foot-pounds. And then we need a quarter turn. Again, I'm just going to go by a point. You can mark them. This one here, it says 10.9. It's parallel to this. So I'm going to turn it till it's parallel to the subframe. And that'll be my 90 degrees. And just got like a little turn to do. And that's it. Same for this one. Now 10.9 or whatever it says, 10 point something. It's parallel with the subframe, so I'm going to make it parallel with this bracket. And one more. There we go. Now it's parallel. Alright, now we're going to do this big guy back here. 74 foot-pounds. Set the torque wrench up. 74. I'm actually using one of the cheap Harbor Freight torque wrenches that are like, I think, 20 bucks. So far it's been pretty good. Haven't had any real issues with it. Haven't had an engine fall out or subframe fall out. This will probably take a while since bushings in there. Insert. Okay. 74 foot-pounds. Quarter turn coming up. Now this says 8.8. It's almost parallel with the subframe. So I'm just going to make it, there's just like a little box area. I'm going to make it parallel with this part of the subframe. We'll get that. Like one little more turn. That's it. Alright, engine's in. It's not going anywhere. Next is to put this little rad hose back on. Shouldn't be too bad. Which, yes, you probably should flush the old coolant out. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to add the coolant in. I'm sure there's probably a way that you got to like vacuum it out or flush it out somehow. I'm not going to do it. That's up to your discretion. You do it. When I did the radiator, my Mark IV, I didn't flush the coolant out. I just, drained it, changed the radiator, filled it up. I didn't have air bubbles or air pockets like people say you get air pockets. I think some people overcomplicate things or just hear horror stories from dealerships. So I'm doing it this way. Oh, coolant in the eye. There we go. Clamps back on. Clean that area off. That way we can check for leaks. We're not spotting the old coolant, thinking we got a leak. Home stretch. Everything's torqued down. Everything's put back together. Battery's in. Gotta put the negative on. Yeah. Let's add some coolant. Alright, got my coolant. The kit comes with 2 jugs as explained in the beginning. It's Vaco, whatever, VA, whatever 013, and that's probably too much light. There we go. But it's showing, I'm guessing for temperatures to -0. There, temperatures to -0 degrees Fahrenheit. You mix it 1 part coolant, 2 parts water, so you thin it out. So if you're in a warmer climate, you thin it out. If you're expecting it to be -33 degrees Fahrenheit, you mix it 1 to 1. And if you're living in the North Pole or Antarctica, you mix it 2 parts coolant, 1 part water. I'm probably just going to do probably gonna do 1 to 2, since it rarely. I'm probably gonna do 1 to 2 since it rarely gets below 0 here in PA. If so, it's only like that for a little bit. So I'll mix it 1 part coolant, 2 parts water. So what I'm gonna do is dump this jug of coolant in, fill this up with water, dump it in, fill this up with water again, dump it in. Alright, we're going to start the car, let that cycle through. car's been a little noisy lately. When you don't run it for a while, it starts up very noisy. Yeah, so this is how I did my Mark IV. I basically ran the car, added the coolant, have the heat cranked, you know, the heat's turned on, that way it goes through the heater core, and then just watch the level. It mixes through. It's got a thermostat's got to open and close, so it's got to heat up the temperature. Alright, well, that's cycling through. Every once in a while you'll see some coolant come up. I would have did a coolant flush if, you know, I bought this car new, so I'm the one, it's got factory coolant in. A lot of times you buy a used car, people will put coolant that's not rated for Volkswagens, and then you'll get sludge buildup. But since it's factory coolant, I'm not worried about it. Same way with my GTI. I bought my GTI fairly used, and it had OEM coolant in it, so I didn't have an issue doing it this way. But just keep an eye on your level. Let your car run. It's gonna take some coolant. Once it heats up the temperature, check for leaks. So far it's looking good. I don't see no leaks. I shined the flashlight down in there. Nothing that wasn't there before. So that's looking good. Belt's rolling along nice. No leak coming from the pipe we took off. Nothing under here. That's old. Everything looks good. Got my little oil leak. That might be the next thing. I might be changing the oil filter housing gasket or whatever that is. So that might be coming up. Alright, well, it's been running a while. Just been adjusting the level when I need it. Just, there's plenty of other, I'm not going to go into doing the coolant flush and all that. But I'll see if I can find a link to a good coolant flush do-it-yourself. That way that can help you with filling it up. But, you know, the way I did it, that's how I did it before on my Mark IV. Just let it run. Mix the coolant up, you know, 50-50 or 2-to-1 or 40-60 or whatever meets your needs, and add coolant as you need it. But yeah, that was water pump do-it-yourself on the 2.5. It basically, I spent 2 days doing it. Filming, you know, taking the video was what took the longest. And the fact that I've never done it on this car, so I had no clue. I was basically just looking stuff up and then putting it to a video. But yeah, if you have any other ideas for a do-it-yourself you want to see, my car is at 114,000. I'm sure I'm going to be doing other stuff. I'm not sure what that scary knock is when it starts up. It usually does it when it sits for a while, or if I have the car jacked up for a while and the oil's on one side of the motor or something, it does that. I know 05.5 to 07.5 or early 08s have the timing chain issue where they eat through the block, and if that was ever the case, if I ever get the timing chain or the timing code, this thing's going for sale. But yeah, if you have any other do-it-yourselfs you want to see, eventually I'll probably do CV shafts, tie rod ends, inner tie rods, ball joints. So that's probably all going to come up. Probably not till spring. I'm hoping this thing gets me through winter. But yeah, thanks for watching. don't forget to put your splash guard on. Outside for the running. Watching the levels. Mixing what I need to mix.